For clarification, I am a female. I will provide links for verification of this story. Zombieland is off of Route 224 in Hillsville, Pennsylvania. It is a local legend hole where there are tales of haunted places, strange happenings, murders, meth heads, ghost trains, etc. There is the murder of a girl mentioned in articles about Zombieland, a girl named Shannon Koss. She was roughly 5 through 7 years younger than me, and we grew up on opposite sides and opposite ends of the block. She on Midlothian Boulevard, and I on East Judson Avenue. I knew her because she played with younger kids on both sides of our block, and we sometimes all played hide and seek together, older and younger kids alike. After graduation, I was attending college at Youngstown State University, pre-med, thinking of becoming a medical examiner. I got a job at age 18 at a now defunct livery service. A livery service rents limousines and hearses to funeral homes, and some, like the one I worked for, did body removals for some of the funeral homes. Being too young to drive hearses and limos, I was exclusively removal crew. I had been working for the livery service for nearly a year when I got an unusual removal across my pager, a pickup at a coroner's office in western Pennsylvania for Kirla Funeral Home. The name sounded vaguely familiar, but I couldn't place it. It had been years since I had seen Shannon. My partner and I picked up the body in Pennsylvania and returned to Struthers, Idaho, and brought the body into Kirla's on our wheeled stretcher. The elevator was broken, so I had to climb down the ladder in the elevator shaft. Her body, still in the bag, was carefully handed down to me, and I carried her into the embalming room the way a groom carries his bride across the threshold. I remember thinking to myself how small and frail she felt. Part of my job was to remove clothing and body bags and place special blocks under the head and arms of the deceased in preparation for embalming. I was unzipping the body bag when my partner and the funeral director joined me in the embalming room. I folded back the flap of the body bag, and I felt weak in the knees. I recognized her. The click was almost audible when I realized who she was and how I knew her, and staggered back a few steps, and my boss/partner grabbed me to keep me from falling. After explaining my reaction, the three of us took a few moments to compose ourselves and returned to the task at hand. That day, I saw what those monsters did to that poor, sweet girl. She still had dirt and leaves stuck to her body. 3 young men in their early 20s saw 12-year-old Shannon at a local laundromat on South Avenue, and they somehow got her to leave with the 3 of them. Once she was in the car, they took her to Zombieland, where the 3 men took turns raping and brutalizing her. When they had their fill, they stabbed her numerous times, mostly in the arms as she tried to protect herself. They slit her throat, deeply from ear to ear, and left her small body in the ditch where she lay overnight. They returned the next day with gas cans, poured gasoline all over her, and set her on fire. The gas burned off, and the fire went out, doing little damage. The flames caused some minor skin peeling, similar to how you would peel after a sunburn. The most severe damage done by the fire was to her right ear, which was burned black. It reminded me of the way a marshmallow looks after you catch it on fire. Those animals raped, tortured, and murdered a girl that hadn't even hit puberty. I went home after the removal and cried for almost an hour, my head in my grandmother's lap. As awful as this story is, it isn't over yet. When the 3 men were arrested, their mugshots were all over the news. The first time I saw the mugshots, my knees went weak, and I sat down hard on the floor. I knew those men. As it turns out, they were friends of my cousin's, and had been at my cousin's home, and I had hung out with them there. I had also partied with them several times in the year leading up to the kidnap and murder. The leader of the pack, Billy Monday, had dated my friend Linda. I had declined an offer to go to a party with them at Zombieland about 6 weeks before Shannon's murder because Linda wasn't going, and Linda had broken up with him about 4 weeks prior because he had become abusive. It chills me to the bone to think what happened to Shannon might have happened to me if I had gone along with those creeps. They had been planning to kill someone for a long time because they wanted to know what it felt like. Their thrill kill hit too close for comfort. I'm 34 now, and and it still chills me to think of how close I came to being in Shannon's place. This is an unnerving experience I had during my time in the modeling industry. A brief background. I was recruited by an agency when I was in college, around the age of 19. I never had any interest in it prior to the agency offer, so I was an industry novice, but accepted the opportunity due to the earning potential. Please refrain from tearing me apart in the comments section. I have since retired from the industry and have seriously wised up. When I first began, all of my photo shoots, fashion shows, and promo events were coordinated through my agency. I will admit I was naive at the time and had little to no background on the industry. About 3 months after signing with my agency, I got contacted on my personal email from a photographer who was interested in booking me for a shoot. It was odd, as I didn't have social media or have my personal email and phone number posted online for potential booking agents. However, I shrugged it off. Everything up until that point had been agency-based. The photographer was interested in building his portfolio and was offering $100 an hour for a high-fashion nature shoot, which sounds like a lot, but is actually below industry standards. I was new myself and also looking to build my portfolio and make some extra money for only 2 hours of work. Because of that, I agreed to book the shoot without the knowledge of my agency, as I did not want to sacrifice the 15% agency fee that they'd take. The shoot was scheduled at a nature reserve about 30 minutes from my university. Due to the nature of the shoot, i.e. portfolio building, the photographer was able to provide a wardrobe, but not hair and makeup services. I was sent an image of the wardrobe beforehand and approved based on the modesty of the apparel. When I arrived at the shoot, the photographer met me at a common area and decided to show me the location he wanted to do the shoot at, which was off of the designated trails. No immediate flags went off because it was much more scenic off of the trails. On top of that, his camera, wardrobe bag, and a few reflectors were brought along with us. I followed the photographer, whose assistant did not show up as initially agreed upon, into the woods, and the further we trekked off of the trails, the more nervous I became. About 20 minutes into our trek through the woods, the photographer decided to set up camp at a woodsy remote location. He took out the wardrobe and expected me to change right there in front of him. The wardrobe looked nothing like the photos he had sent me. This was hardcore bondage apparel. Think skimpy leather and latex. In addition to this, his behavior was odd. I couldn't exactly identify what it was about him that made me feel uneasy, but my gut was telling me something wasn't right. The first red flag was the absence of his assistant, and how unprofessional he seemed. I had worked with several professional photographers before that, so I had a good understanding of professional industry etiquette. After about 10 minutes of arguing about changing in front of him, he finally gave in and walked deeper into the forest to let me change. I honestly had no intentions of shooting in that attire, but I needed him to leave due to the aggressive tone he began taking. I heard him cursing and grunting under his breath as he walked farther into the woods to give me privacy. At that point, I dropped the money and the wardrobe and ran through the woods to my car. When I finally made it to my car, I could hear him running and yelling for me. I tore ass out of the nature reserve and did not look back. About 10 minutes later, I got a text that consisted of a number of nonsensical numerical characters, and one that simply said, LOL. When I got home, I saw one final text from him. He told me that I was missing out on a good time, and that he had been planning on having a good time with me in more than one way. I called my service provider to have his number blocked immediately. This was before the days where you could simply block someone on your iPhone. I received approximately 20 emails from him about 1 month after the incident. I didn't open them and sent them straight to the trash can. Soon after, he completely removed all of his profiles from the industry's websites. I had done some research on him through Model Mayhem and One Model Place. I'm truly hoping that nobody had an experience like the one I had with him, and further, I'm hoping that he did not harm any other model that worked with him. I certainly learned my lesson after that, and have since gained an incredible sense of personal intuition. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. If you would like a chance to have your story featured in an upcoming video, make sure you check the description for information on how to submit your stories. Before I give a couple of my thoughts on the stories, I would like to wish a very happy 13th birthday to Patience. I hope you had a lot of fun on your birthday, and try not to give your mom too much of a hard time throughout your teenage years. We've all been there. Now, in the first story, I'm really sorry to hear that it was one of your friends you came across, and it's even worse that it was under such horrific circumstances. Fortunately, those sick fucks were caught, and they'll get theirs in jail, I'm sure of it. Now, in the second story, it's very fortunate that you were able to get him to go away so you could change. That was probably going to be your only chance to get away from him. Fortunately, you were smart enough to take it. I'm happy to hear you've since wisened up and haven't had any more contact with the man. So as a few of you may have noticed, I might sound a little bit different. I finally got my new microphone that came in, so I'm experimenting with it a little bit. So that's why this video is a little bit shorter. Tomorrow I plan on 2 videos. One's going to include quite a bit of blood, it's going to be 2 stories, and the other one will be a longer story. I hope you all had a wonderful weekend, as well as a wonderful Valentine's Day, and I'll catch you in the next video. And just remember, it's always scarier if it's true.